Van Gogh and Picasso are two of the most recognizable names on the planet. Countless books and millions of words have been devoted to their lives and work. Their art changed the way people see the world around them. There weren't billions of people waiting in line for Picasso masterpieces from the Musée National Picasso, Paris in Toronto, or for Van Gogh up close in Ottawa. But at times it felt like there was. The big names bring the big crowds. For me, this is a mixed blessing. I love the fact that people are going en masse to experience art and taking the time to truly look at things, but it can make viewing the art troublesome. This summer has been a spoils of riches for the art-going public, with two blockbuster shows just 4 hours away from one another. So, this past week, I made my pilgrimage to spend time with two of the icons of Western art.
Stop 1. Picasso at the AGO. The first stop on my art pilgrimage was the Picasso exhibition at the AGO. Over 150 works, all from the Picasso Museum in Paris, currently under renovation, had made the trip across the Atlantic. But these weren't just any Picasso pieces. These were the ones he kept, the ones he couldn't part with, the canvases he guarded like secrets. I'd seen Picasso's work in Barcelona before, but never Paris. And yet, as I stepped into that gallery, it felt like I was walking into his private living room. And he had just stepped out for a cigarette. The walls were alive. Every era of Picasso's career lined up in a visual autobiography. From his Blue Period's melancholy blues to the Cubist explosions that shattered reality into 1,000 brilliant fragments. You could feel him in every brushstroke, restless, uncontainable, endlessly reinventing himself. Here's what struck me most. Picasso was always painting Picasso. Even when he painted you, it was still about him. He could channel a friend, an enemy, even a rival like Matisse. And somehow, the reflection staring back was still his own. One piece stopped me cold. L'Atelier de la Californie, painted just 2 years after Matisse's death, it's a tribute and a challenge rolled into one. The studio is rendered in warm, inviting colors, but right there, in the heart of the canvas, is an empty space. Not a mistake, a wound. A quiet, deliberate void marking the absence of a man he respected and competed with to his dying day. It's not just a painting of a room, it's a conversation between two ghosts, one who had just left and one who knew his turn was coming. And in that space between brushstrokes, you can almost hear Picasso whisper, "It's your move, old friend." Stop 2. Van Gogh, up close at the National Gallery. The process of painting, that was the beating heart of the exhibition Van Gogh, up close at the National Gallery. 40 works, each orbiting around his relationship with nature. No big-name showstoppers here, no starry night, no sunflowers. But honestly, Van Gogh doesn't need the celebrity pieces to mesmerize you. Even a small canvas, barely the size of a notebook, radiates the same feverish energy as a masterpiece. Think about it. This was a man who painted for just 10 years. 10! In that time, he produced nearly 900 paintings. That's almost one a week, while battling poverty, rejection, and the kind of mental storms that would have swallowed most of us whole. And yet, through it all, he gave the world colors that shouldn't exist, but somehow do.
His style is unmistakable. Bold, impossible colors, yellows that hum like the sun in your chest, blues that press against your ribs like the night air before a storm. Paint layered so thick it casts shadows on itself, the brush strokes standing like tiny cliffs of pigment. Each mark is both a wound and a declaration. And in those swirls and strokes, there's a strange duality. The world he saw was infinite, yet shy. Expansive fields, endless skies, and somewhere in the corner, a single tree, a lonely chair, a solitary figure. Van Gogh's paintings don't just show you nature, they make you feel its solitude, its fragile heartbeat. Standing there in front of those works, I didn't just see his world, I heard it. The whisper of wind over wheat, the slow breathing of a cypress tree, the silence between one heartbeat and the next. And for a moment, you're not looking at paint anymore. You're looking at Vincent himself, reaching across time, saying without words, "I'm still here."
Van Gogh invented a style, perfected it over a short period of time, and then put it stiff. In his work, you can see the influence of Japanese block prints along with the work of the Impressionists. Van Gogh added expressionism to the list, breathing vitality into every brushstroke. No other artist can attempt to do what he did. They will all be compared to him and eventually come up short. You can't help but be overcome with a sense of joy, with a hint of tragedy when you stand in front of a Van Gogh.
So, who was greater, Picasso or Van Gogh? Two men who could not be further apart in temperament. Van Gogh was awkward in conversation, riddled with self-doubt, a man who thought romance meant cutting off part of his ear to impress a woman, and who once set out to become a preacher before he ever picked up a brush. Picasso? He had no such tortured ambitions. He carried himself with an almost unshakable confidence, a magnetism that drew crowds before he even entered a room. Where Van Gogh sold only one painting in his lifetime, Picasso had people lining up around the block to buy his work. He could trade a single canvas for a house. Yet both were possessed, utterly consumed by the need to create. Both worked with a speed and urgency that bordered on madness. Van Gogh could finish a painting in a day, pouring his entire soul into the canvas. Picasso, especially in his later years, might paint one masterpiece before lunch, and another after. Picasso lived 55 years longer than Van Gogh, yet what Vincent compressed into his brief, burning decade remains staggering. 10 years to alter the course of art forever. And so, the question of who is better melts away. Because in the quiet truth of it, we need them both. Picasso, the restless innovator, always reinventing. Van Gogh, the tender visionary, who taught us that beauty can be both infinite and unbearably fragile. Two giants standing in the same sky, one painted with the certainty of the sun, the other with the trembling light of the stars. And we are lucky, achingly lucky, that we get to stand in their glow. So, what about you? After walking through both exhibitions, standing inches away from the canvases, breathing in the colors, here's my truth. Van Gogh was the better painter, but Picasso painted the more beautiful paintings. That's my take. Now it's your turn. Tell me, in the clash of these two titans, whose art owns your heart? Is it the trembling poetry of Van Gogh, or the fearless brilliance of Picasso? Drop your answer below, and don't hold back. Art deserves a little passion.